let's bring in an expert. Guy knows the game in and out, all around.
Got
ScoopB.
connections.
Yes. You can follow Brandon on Twitter at ScoopB. Harry Mayes, Eytan Shander. Brandon, appreciate you joining us today on 97.3 ESPN, man.
Jim, hey, guys. Good afternoon. How are you?
We're great, man.
We're great, especially since we can take a necessary, needed break away from this god-awful baseball team and talk about the reality of the free agency under a week away.
Yeah, and you talk about god-awful baseball team. It doesn't get any better on this side of the river with
That's
the Mets.
right.
You having managers charging their reporters. It's a sad state of affairs right now. But when you talk about free agencies, probably one of the biggest free agencies that you'll ever see in professional sports. If you thought 2018 was something, 2019 is a thing of beauty. The reality is guys can change their mind up until the 25th hour if they want to.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask a quick question about Kawhi Leonard, and maybe we can start there because, Woj's report came out on the draft. We kind of talked about a little bit about this on Friday, and that's just the possibility of meeting with the Sixers. And for me, it wasn't really about, hey, he's going to meet with the Sixers and come to the Sixers. It was, who's he trying to pry away from the Sixers? Who is he trying to get Jimmy? Is he trying to get Tobias? Who's he trying to upset here in Philadelphia that they would meet with Kawhi instead of that player and then ultimately take that player to the Clippers?
Well, I mean, if you go back into a tweet that I actually put out in January, I believe it was January 12th, there was interest with both the Jimmy Butler and Kawhi Leonard potentially joining the Los Angeles Clippers. That made its viral wave. But when you talk about the Sixers and Kawhi Leonard meeting, I think one of the things that you have to take into account is a lot of these guys like to be courted, almost like it's a whole recruitment process like in college, almost like he got game. When you look at Kawhi Leonard, he was drafted by the Spurs. He was traded to the Raptors, a team that wasn't a team that was on his list. The Sixers, he has relationship with Brett Brown there. So, if he's taking a meeting with the Sixers, I mean, I would look at it as, hey, he wants to see what they have to discuss. He and Brett Brown won a championship together in 2015. But the reality with the Sixers is this. The Sixers have to sign three guys, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, and J.J. Redick. And so to at least have a conversation with with Kawhi Leonard is interesting. But the Sixers do have bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, I actually think it's just they're wasting their time. I don't think Kawhi Leonard's coming here. I didn't believe that LeBron was coming here last year, and yet they evidently got some sort of meeting with him, and it made some Sixers fans feel good that, hey, LeBron's at least meeting with the Sixers. We've at least arrived to that level, but I don't take much from this whole Kawhi thing. What is your best guess as to the first move, the first domino to fall? I ask every expert that we have come on because that fascinates me.
If you had asked me pre-Kevin Durant injury, I would have told you Kevin Durant would have been the first domino to fall.
To the Knicks?
With you, well, I went on record in September and shared that the Lakers were a team that Kevin Durant was interested in, and I have a reliable source in there that shared with me why. LeBron, Kuzma, and Kevin Durant were having conversation last summer. In Los Angeles, at various events, those guys were together, between taping the boardroom and a myriad of other things. And the Knicks was something that spurred about. I have to give credit to both Rick Bucher and Chris Haynes for at least bringing that to light. A lot of things has changed. I was told by somebody recently that the Knicks would still do it just because they want to create that splash in the summertime. Mm-hmm. I think that the Knicks was a widely reported thing. I got a call maybe 2 weeks ago that said that was something that was agreed upon months ago, but they don't know whether the injury changes things now. So you hear a lot of different things from various people. But I still do think that Kevin Durant can command that max deal. But the thing is, the Warriors can offer that fifth year. Mm. And so when you look at that situation, you see how he played, you see how, some say he was forced to play in the finals. I feel like Kevin Durant is in the driver's seat to do what he wants, and I still do think he commands the first domino to fall, just like LeBron James did last summer.
All right, so what about the first domino to fall that will directly impact Tobias Harris / Jimmy Butler? who should we be looking at and saying it may not be Kevin Durant, it may not even be Kawhi Leonard, but somebody else, or maybe it is Kawhi, but that's my point. Somebody that we point to and say, all right, now that will indicate what Butler or Harris does.
Well, I think that a person that you should be paying attention to, so you asked me the first domino at pretty much at all. I look at Kevin Durant as the guy to make that move, but I also think Kyrie Irving is a guy that someone should be paying attention to because, in a lot of respects, if you take him at his word, he said, I'll come back to Boston if you have me. You look at the Brooklyn situation, and he believed that was sewn up. That was something that I was discussing in February. What if Kyrie decides to change his mind? I know that Jimmy Butler had the Nets on his list of teams that he was interested in. I've heard from various people that, the Knicks are a team of interest if they don't go after Kevin Durant. So, you look at that situation, and I'll add, when you talk about Tobias Harris, a team that many people, I had Steve Kyler on the ScoopB Radio podcast last week. He said a team that you should pay attention to for Tobias Harris is the Utah Jazz. I know Tony Jones was giving credit for that. My buddy in Utah was giving credit for that. But Tobias is in a good situation because he can fit in any system. So I think that Elton Brand has his hands full as far as what the next move is. I spoke to Elton a couple of weeks ago. He told me, man, I'm laying low till after the draft and free agency just because there are so many what-ifs and dominoes that can fall for Philadelphia. To be honest with you, and this is my personal opinion, I would love to see Kemba Walker in Philadelphia rather than any other team.
Wow, how would that work with Kemba and Ben? Not to say that it wouldn't, but I'm just curious how it would work.
I'm a fan of the old Sixers teams from the 2000s, and I believe that Eric Snow made Allen Iverson a better player, shifted him over to the 2, helped him a lot on defense, taking breaks on defense. He played the passing lane. Ben Simmons is a tall guard. And when I looked at the Sixers in the playoffs this season, I was enamored by the subset that Brett Brown used, where he moved Ben Simmons off the ball and basically had Jimmy Butler in that point forward position, because your opponent's small forward still can't check Ben Simmons because he's so tall. But you can't deny his ability to run the break. You can't deny his uncanny ability to find open teammates. But when you look at Kemba Walker, you look at what's going on in Charlotte, I don't see that team getting any better anytime soon, just because they've depended on him for so long. So if I'm Kemba Walker and I'm trying something new, they say to get what you want, you have to do something you've never done before. I don't think Philadelphia is such a bad look. You can commit, you can score, you can distribute. And I think that if you look at that Sixers team in the playoffs, they could have used him this year, and they could have used him last year. So I think that Kemba Walker going to Philadelphia is an underrated move that I think they should consider.
Now, Brandon Robinson at ScoopB on Twitter joining us here on the Lighthouse Insurance guest line. Now, when you say Kemba Walker, are you saying him in lieu of losing both Butler and Tobias Harris, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's a fallback to get.
Oh, that's to both.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, gentlemen first.
Well, that I've been called much better than that. Trust me. What happens if Tobias Harris moves on? Because there's the thinking part of me, Scoop, that when you look out in the Lakers scenario where they have that money for a third slot guy, that they might just allocate it to 2 or 3 guys and kind of build more of a team. Let's say that Jimmy Butler comes back, Tobias Harris walks or goes somewhere else. You could have, if they let JJ and Mike Scott go up to like $30, $31 million. Do you put that into maybe 1.5 players, or do you maybe go that allocate road with this specific Sixers team?
I think, to be honest with you, the Sixers and the Lakers are in similar situations, because when you look at the Lakers, for example, you have LeBron and you have Anthony Davis, 2 All-Stars, right? You figure they traded the young farm system, some of it, to get Davis, and all you need to do at this point is to get some fillers. Kyle Korver is a guy former Sixer that you could bring in, and then you look at, do I bring in Kawhi or do I bring in a plan B? When you look at the Sixers, you have Ben Simmons, you have Joel Embiid. If you lose Tobias, I believe that that's a greater loss because of how much you gave up for him. If you lose Jimmy, I feel like they cleared some of those guys off the books that they were, or at least off the roster that they were trying to get rid of anyway. So if I'm the Sixers, I feel like Jimmy Butler was the key that started the engine for the Sixers. They have to find a way to keep him and get some fillers. When I look at J.J. Redick, I look at the premium shooting, I look at the veteran leadership. Even talking to some of these draftees in the draft last week, they were just telling me how much J.J. Redick was instrumental in, telling them to come and play. Or rather, if they come to Philadelphia, this is what they can expect. I like J.J. Redick. I think that the Sixers are going to try to keep him. I think Tobias is a lot more complex because Tobias, to me, again, is a guy that's been traded to various teams, a guy that's, done various things. And I think that for Tobias, I think he sees his options. Jimmy's trying to be somewhere where he's settled. Mm-hmm. So when you look at your question was, what do you do? I feel like you should go after somebody that is going to be the key that starts the engine. Hint, hint, Jimmy Butler. And the guy who commands respect in the locker room.
J.J. Redick.
There you go.
All right.
You said it, not me.
Which you're putting words in my mouth. I'll say them. It's okay. All right, ScoopB, we appreciate you jumping on, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks
we'll talk again.
Gentlemen, a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
There he is, Brandon Robinson, ScoopB on Twitter.